Hi, I'm Stephanie Silverin, one of the owners and founders of Your Teen Media. Our college workshop series is brought to you by Ohio's 529 plan, College Advantage. This program is all about saving for college because they care so much about your child's future. Ohio's 529 plan, College Advantage, is an excellent partner to Your Teen Media.
Hi, Sue Borison here from Your Teen Media. I'm speaking with Tim Gorrell, Executive Director of Ohio's 529 plan, College Advantage. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Hi, good to be here.
Can we start with a very basic, like just a short explanation of a 529?
Sure, we're asked that all the time. And in short, the advantage is taxes. Uh, you're investing, if you choose our plan or a 529 plan to invest in, you're investing after tax dollars. They grow tax-free, and whenever they're withdrawn for qualified expenses, there's no tax implication on that. There are other ways to save, of course, but those typically have tax consequences.
Parents who heard this, that didn't hear it, and hit kind of their kids getting a little older might be listening and saying, like, I blew it. Is it ever too late?
No, and that's another good question as well, because people life goes on. The ideal time is to open your accounts, your investments when a baby's born. But we all know who have kids that before you know it, or grandkids, before you know it, they're off to kindergarten, and then it's middle school, and then holy cow, they're in high school, and you're looking at whatever comes after high school. So if you didn't start in the beginning, it's not to despair. Start. One of our partners likes to say, when was the best time to plant a tree? Well, that was 20 years ago. When's the next best time? Today. And it's the same with college savings and investment. Obviously, the more time you have investing, the better off it is. But it's important because every dollar that you save is one that doesn't have to come from somewhere else, regardless of when you start.
Okay, so everyone listening, there's no time like today if you can afford to do it right now and you haven't done it yet. But we are in extraordinary times right now. The market is horrible. The future is so unpredictable. If I have a 529 right now and I have a kid about to go to college in the next year or two, can you explain how that investment changes over time so that maybe I don't have to be as concerned as I might be?
Well, obviously, these are extraordinary times with the economic impact of COVID-19 pandemic that's going on. But portfolios with our partners, whether individuals are investing in a direct plan or they're in an advisor plan, are based to withstand that. It's much like your retirement investments and savings. They start off, they're early on, they're very aggressive. And as you get closer to the time that you may be calling on those funds, then they become more conservative. The same as with the 529 savings. They start out very aggressively early on, depending on the age of the beneficiary. And as they get closer to using those funds, they become more conservative in the investment. And what that does is when there's market changes, while it doesn't guarantee that there may not be an impact or like maybe the fund's value goes down a little bit, it's not as bad as it was as in the beginning, maybe when it was a little more aggressive.
So there's a little comfort in that right now for people who are looking at how they're going to fund college in the very near future. Your 529 should be more solid than some of your other investments.
We hope so. That's the case, but I think that to note is not again not to despair because it happens. It's not the time to pull funds out to change the course. It's important to stay the way and to stay the course, so to speak, because the market will come back. It'll rebound. People still remember very clearly 2008, and that was a tremendous hit on the market. But it's the old the cliche, so to speak, buy low, sell high. Well, this is a time when things are low, and it's a good time to continue investing and still buying.
Great. Okay, so what's the typical usage of a 529 or most common usage? I think most people think it's a 4-year college. Is that true?
Yes. However, it's good to add that. I mean, even with our name and by the title, college savings, college advantage, people think, well, okay, it's a 2-year, 4-year college, maybe in-state, and it's used for so much more. Any educational entity that it has a federal code, you can use your 529. So that includes trade schools, technical schools, 2-year, 4-year, in-state, out-of-state, any educational entity that has a code. Our ad agency likes to experiment and communicate ways of using it, and they found that there is a stunt school that you can use your 529 for. And so we like to say you can go to stunt school and use your 529, or if you're on the other end of the spectrum, you want to use it to go to Harvard, you can do that as well. And so there's a broad range of it. And many people think if they invest in their state's plan that they're limited as far as those educational opportunities. While here in Ohio, we would love for people to choose our plan, to invest in it, and that help them realize those savings goals for after high school education, and they pick a school or an educational entity here in Ohio, get a great degree, come out and have a great career, live, work, and thrive here in Ohio. That's not the case for everybody. Some people have other educational aspirations or other places they want to go. And you can certainly take your 529 to whatever that may be.
That's really cool that you can do stunt, you can become a stunt person. That's excellent with your 529. There's a projection that kids who are looking at colleges right now, as a result of COVID-19, might change their immediate plans. For example, they might decide to take a gap year. So are there programs that would qualify if you took a gap year instead of going to the original plan of a 4-year college?
Uh, well, yes, and again, the test on that is if that opportunity or that educational entity has a federal code. But I'd like to note, like with the Secure Act, which passed in December, late last year, among the provisions in the Secure Act was that it authorized use of your 529 for apprenticeships. So the definition of an apprenticeship is per the Department of Labor, United States Department of Labor definition of apprenticeship. So if somebody would go into an apprenticeship and there's costs associated to that, you can use your 529, for that certification.
Wow, so certification programs can also be covered.
Yes.
That is amazing. It has a much wider application than I think many people recognize. When I go to use that money, I can pay for tuition or the certification costs, but there are other costs that it will cover, correct?
Yes, as you said, tuition and fees, and so those are any of those costs associated with taking a given course. But you can use it for room and board as well. And if you live on campus, obviously that's clearly stated in the educational institutions billing, for room and board. But not everybody for the whole time lives on campus or in the school provided housing. So you can use that for off-campus housing. That may be a house, an apartment, and the test on that is whatever that educational entity is charging for room and board, you can take up to that much for off-campus housing and for your board cost for food and such. You can also use it for books and computers.
If I live off campus, I can get the cost that would have been if I lived on the college campus. If I go to a certification course and I just have an apartment.
Again, if that's associated with an educational entity, and then they do provide for room and board, that would be the test on it. But it would have to be associated to that educational institution.
Okay. All right. Now this is the scenario that we'd all love to live through, but my kid gets a full ride to a 4-year college, and I've been saving for the moment that I wanted to avoid debt. What do I do now?
Okay, well, great. Congratulations.
Not me.
One of a very, very small percentage. We did do an analysis on that, and in the people say, well, full ride scholarship. And so when I hear full ride scholarship, I assume you're saying all the tuition and fees, room and board, books, computers, everything that's associated with the educational opportunity there. And if that's the case, then there's only just slightly less than 1% of the scholarships awarded are that type of scholarships. A lot of times they do provide tuition, but maybe fees aren't included or room and board. So you can use your 529 to complement that. However, if you are that fortunate that you had a scholarship that covered everything, you can take a withdrawal from your 529 without a penalty. And so what that means is that you could take up to the amount of that scholarship, and you would still pay on your gains, how much money you earned on that account, and only that amount because you put in after-tax dollars. But you would not have to pay a penalty with that, because if you take an unqualified distribution from your 529 that's not for any of those things that we just talked about, then you would pay tax on your gains, what you earned on it, and you would pay a 10% penalty. However, with a scholarship, you don't have that penalty.
Can someone else in my family use that money?
Yes, that's another thing we're typically asked these as well. Again, what if I don't use it? Or maybe the initial beneficiary isn't going to go to any type of educational program that's going to cost. And so you can change it to siblings. If you're a grandparent and you're investing for your grandchildren, the other grandchildren, you can change it. It's a very broad definition of family members. I mean, it could go all the way down to a first cousin that you could transfer this. And even at the end of the day, use it for yourself. You could even name yourself the beneficiary.
If you want to go be a stunt person now as an adult.
That's right. We were just talking before we came on about being an empty nester and looking for the next adventure. And so yes, if you want to go be a stunt person, and you can take your 529, maybe is intended for your kids, and pay for that for yourself.
I'm there. next stage for me. Okay, so one last question. How do I go about choosing which fund I want to invest in? And is it more beneficial to go to a fund in the state I live in, or does it not matter?
It depends. First off, as far as choosing a plan and whether choosing one in the state that you live in. First thing to do is take a look at any tax advantage that your state may offer. As an example, my wife has an aunt and uncle who live in Virginia, and they have grandchildren. They're looking to open a 529 for their grandkids. And I was very, very pleased. They approached here, and they're interested in Ohio's plan. But Virginia has a very, very generous plan for their residents, and they have a very good plan as far as performance. So as much as I would like that business, it'd be better to look at your state. So you want to look at the performance of the plan in your state, and then whether your state offers a tax advantage for residents investing into a 529 plan. The other is that what you're comfortable doing. Like we have, as I mentioned, a direct plan, and then we have an advisor plan. Some people are comfortable working with a financial advisor, and you're going to pay slightly higher fees for that person to direct your investments and choosing the right fund that's in for you. Or if you feel like doing it yourself, and we're very confident in that lineup that we have, our principal partner in that space is Vanguard. And so we have an array of funds that you can pick yourself, or you have ready-made plans. It's much like we started conversations about the retirement plan. You say the baby's born, you anticipate in 18, 19 years that you would need funding for whatever comes after high school. And so that plan is automatic with the investments of being aggressive and getting less aggressive as the time comes to draw on them. And so there's many resources out there to look at and to do some research. I'd like to add that if you visit our webpage, collegeadvantage.com, we have a calculator on it, because we're often asked, how much do I need to save? And then you can plug in any school. Maybe you are looking at an out-of-state school, a private school, and you can plug in that. You put in the age of the beneficiary, how much you're saving now, or give you an idea if you're on track or if you need to save more. And all this, I think, is important when in selecting a plan, but also having a goal for what you're saving for.
Thanks so much, Tim Gorrell, Executive Director of Ohio's 529 Plan, College Advantage. Thanks for being here with us.
Thanks for having me, Susan.
Now. Yep, now. Definitely now. This is a now. That's a now. Now, now, and now. Your child's life is filled with perfect moments to start planning for their future. It's never too early. It's never too late. Ohio's 529 plan makes it simple to save for whatever school they choose after high school, wherever that school might be. Someday starts now at collegeadvantage.com.